Hello, hello. Hi, Rex again. Here we are. Okay. Some connection problem. That's it. It happened. Sorry,
Sorry.
Rex. So I was saying I had a big hug for you from João Coca. He was with you in a masterclass in Oporto some years ago with Laurent Philippe, which is your
Yeah.
friend. And he told me to tell you to drink less Portuguese coffee because they remember you started drinking the Portuguese coffee in big glasses like the American coffee, and then you were electrical. They had to tell you, look, this coffee is not like the American. So just for you to see if you remember. So
Yes.
Rex,
What a great memory. What a great memory. Please send my hugs back to him and
I
to
will. I
everyone.
will. Tell us a
Fantastic.
bit about you. Everyone knows you, but how you did start on the music? Where are you from, please?
Sure. Well, when I was a child, my father was in the United States Coast Guard. So he was, part of almost like the military branch. We lived all over the place. Um, and my family was not musical, but I was always interested in music from a very early age. I'm adopted, so I don't know. Maybe it's something in the blood.
All right.
but but actually, I started trumpet something kind of by accident because when I was a child, I had asthma, and the doctor told my parents I should play the wind instrument, and my good friend played it just kind of randomly for that. And then
Oh, the connection is down again. Hmm. Oh, good. Okay. Okay. I will invite Rex again. Rex, your connection is low, is going down, but I will put you here. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yes. It just
yeah,
shuts down sometimes. I don't know why. Your one. Doesn't matter. So you were
yeah,
saying you are adopted and you started on the trumpet. You had asthma?
yes, and so I started.
You can speak?
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing our past dialogue. There's some kind of a phasing thing happening. I think it's cleared now. Um, yeah, I moved around, so hopefully I have a better signal now. Um, I'm still hearing
Yes. Weird.
the phasing.
Do you have headphones?
I do. Let me try
Then
that. Give me just a moment.
no worries at all. Hello guys, hello Julian Lupo. Sorry about this. Everyone knows about the connection troubles. Do you see, Julian? It's not just on your interview. So everyone is at home, is normal. Luís Maciel. Ok, já lhe vou ler esse comentário. António, AR Resonance. Guys, please follow AR Resonance. My partner, my great friend António. Hello, Luis, and greetings to Rex. Julian Luco. Yes. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you hear me
Perfect.
okay? Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully
Sometimes
this will be
it's that
better.
is because of the devices. No worries. So we have Antonio from AR Resonance here. We have Luis Maciel saying, great to see you since Fantini competition in 2019. So, and
Fantastic.
Julian, look,
Greetings.
all right. So keep going now on your story.
Okay. So, yes, I started playing trumpet when I was about 10 because I had asthma. And when I was a child, it's hard to imagine now when you hear my voice, but before this, I was a singer when I was very young. And then when I was about 12, 13 years old, my voice started getting not so good, and I became more interested in the trumpet. So by the time I was about 14, I was very serious with the trumpet and had a very good teacher to help me develop this way. So this is really how I started with the instrument.
All right, that's awesome. We will jump today, not for the story, because everyone knows you, and I just wanted to know your story. So you said you are adopted, which is something really interesting, because it's good to know the story behind the musician. I like that part, and maybe that's
Yeah.
why you are who you are. A lot of people will see themselves on you now, probably. So let's go for a technical part, because that's why you are here. You are one of the guys that we wanted to fish to be in the interview. So
Okay.
you are a picket brass artist, right?
Yes.
First of all, what do you think about picket? What got your attention on picket brass? What is best or not that other brands that you would recommend? Because you sound awesome and it's really clear.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, well, I first joined with picket brass, I think would have been maybe in 2013, early 2013. And initially it was through a relationship they had with Wycliffe Gordon, where I started working with his same manager. And I did work with her for a couple of years. And so Peter Pickett was kind of part of that team. And so they said, hey, it'd be good to get a signature mouthpiece. And I went and met with Peter and realized, wow, this guy is brilliant. He really knows his things. And so since then, of course, they had Eric Murine is working with them.
Yes.
And those two guys together are just fantastic. So what I really love about what they do, both of them, is the extreme attention to detail. You know, they are both masters of the craft. They both have great ears too. They're not only technicians with the mouthpiece, but they are both musicians. They understand what to listen to. So the latest mouthpiece that I'm using, the Omni 2 for the large instruments, Eric was able to hear me play. I was on tour somewhere and he was there. I think we were together in Texas and Dallas. And he spent a lot of time with me listening to his different options. And I trust his ears so much that I went with his choice for the best. And when I heard it and recorded it, I said, yes, this is the sound I'm going for. Finally.
Yeah.
It's not always so easy to find the sound that you have in your head. But if you have the concept and you have the instrument and mouthpiece that works, then this is a big help, you know.
All right. Okay. Now you said something really curious, and I will ask you now as a personal question. So you had someone that told you that was the right one, because sometimes what we listen when we are playing is not what other people is listening, is it?
Yes.
I'm having that problem. I had a mouthpiece that I loved so much, and everyone was saying no, no, no. Then I found AR mouthpieces here from Antonio. Awesome. I will never change, but my wife told me straight away that's the one. And I couldn't listen as well. Why do you think that thing happens? Is it because of your sound conception, or because the bell is a bit far from us?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the nature of the instrument. I'm thinking, for example, violinists probably have less of this problem because of the sound production in terms of what goes into the hall is right here. And for us, there's just a little bit of difference. And I think for brass players, what happens in the room is so important. And a lot of what we experience playing a brass instrument, we hear through our head, which is very interesting. There can be some advantages to this. For example, if I'm using a practice mute in an airport, I put in foam earplugs. Oh, yes. I can hear everything now. Yeah. But I think the disadvantage is knowing what you really sound like in the hall, in the kind of room you will perform in. You need feedback. You need people you can trust. And also, I think sometimes we tend to rely a little more on what it feels like, which of course also is important. We need to feel comfortable. But when you have people you trust with good ears to say, this is what I'm hearing in your sound, I think this is a huge help. And usually you will find this is a good, reliable source of information to make this kind of a choice.
All right. That's awesome to know, because I think it's something that can put our brain sometimes thinking too much, and we get spinning around and around, and it's good to know. We
Definitely.
have a
Yeah.
great player. Let me just give a big hug to Zé Pedro Pereira. He's at the Zurich Opera at the moment
Oh,
with Fritz.
fantastic.
With Fritz. And so, Rex, now, what about, you are a teacher too. So
Yes.
tell us where we can find you, for example, for private lessons, for online lessons. Is that possible or not?
It is possible. I'm not doing a lot of online teaching right now, but it is certainly possible. I think the best thing to do is to reach out to me, probably by email, and
Yes.
I can send the address is easy to remember. It's rex@rexrichardson.net,
All
not
right.
.com.
All right. .net.
If you use .com, you might get some other Rex Richardson, which this has caused some confusion sometimes.
Yes.
But
All
yeah,
right.
people can reach out to me and we can see if we can try to schedule something.
Okay.
Sure.
So what do you look for in a student at first? What do you look when you have a student trying to get lessons with you? I don't know if you are at the university or not, but you are.
Yes. Yes. I teach at Virginia Commonwealth University
Yes.
here in Richmond,
So
Virginia.
if you have auditions, what do you look for in a guy? Sound, technique. What do you look first?
Really, the first thing is kind of the attitude or the spirit. I've found a pattern because now I've been teaching at this university for 18 years, and I've seen a pattern for the students that succeed and the others that don't have as much success. And it has to do primarily with the attitude and for a certain kind of passion for the music. So when I get the sense talking to a student who is auditioning, wow, this person really knows trumpet players and listening to everything. And sometimes it's a funny thing. Sometimes I can almost hear they're having a little bit of problems because they're playing too much. And I have to tell students many times, okay, this is great. You're so passionate, but slow down a little bit. I actually, at first, I see this as a very positive sign that this person has the basic ingredients to succeed. So it's not so much about any kind of a natural ability or great technique or a great sound. It's really about the attitude and the sort of the spirit.
Oh, connection went down again. Sorry, guys.
Here we go.
Is
You're
here?
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back. Yes. No worries.
I think much more than anything technical or even a nice musicality, the most important thing is this attitude. The person who just is kind of obsessed with the music and with the trumpet is most likely to have success in the long run. So that's what I look for primarily.
Okay, that's awesome. In terms of a correction, for example, you have a kid that goes, and usually for sure this is what happens with you and most of the teachers. Even the guys that go to the university, of course, if they pass, is because they are good, but is always missing that step to be good to great. What do you work first with them? What is the kind of routine? So you bring them back for the basis, for example, to the first album. My teacher at the university was straight like that. Three
Yeah.
first ARBA exercises. So do you do the same kind of?
Very similar. Yeah. I want to make sure that, first of all, they have a very strong concept of what they want to sound like. Because I can tell sometimes if someone the idea is vague or it's not very clear, then no matter what they are doing technically, it's not going to sound good. So we make sure they are doing not only listening to great trumpet players, but they're doing the right kind of careful analytical listening. For me, for example, when I was first listening, Maurice Andre and Wynton Marsalis were two of my first heroes, And so I started learning to think, well, what is it about the sound? What is it about the articulation, the sense of flexibility, the way they play a beautiful phrase, a sense of melody? And in analyzing those details, it's easier to start modeling what you hear. And the other side of it is also setting up a daily routine of exercises that train your chops to some degree, but mostly your brain, to
Right.
make the changes so you start to move in the direction of the goals. So you have a concept, which is about the goals, and a good set of exercises that you do every day. And of course, you can make changes, you can make frequent changes, but you have this idea of consistent practice. And then also a sense of some variety so that you can change what you're doing even today, day to day, and as the weeks and months go on, so you adapt to your changing abilities. So these are the two main things. This, and also it depends to some degree what the particular performance goals are of the performer. Are they a jazz player? Are they classical? Do they want to do both? Are they primarily interested in orchestral performance or chamber music or solo? And so depending on what they're interested in, we steer them a little bit different directions in terms of the repertoire, how to think about the instrument, and these kinds of things.
Yes. Okay. So you are not the kind of teacher that says, no, you have to sound like this. So that's what I'm getting for you. So you try to find their own path. That's the way.
Yes. I think I have two jobs as a teacher. One is to figure out, okay, what kind of musician does the student want to be, and how can I help them to realize this, but also to make sure I am kind of sometimes almost the technique police or something, to make sure the things they're not aware of. Because, if they listen to Chris Martin play in the orchestra, they say, oh, this is great, I want to sound like this, but they may not realize how much transposition they have to practice. They may not realize how much efficiency they have to develop in their technique with flexibility study and this kind of thing. So I want to make sure they have all the tools that they need to technically to arrive at their goals, and then to help push them in the direction that they want to go. So for example, I don't expect them all to play like me or to sound like me. I want them to fulfill their own musical goals and to try to help them get there.
Yes. Well, having lessons with you, I think people always want to sound like you. That's the thing. So
not everybody, no.
we had Andrea Tofanelli here, which is a great friend of you. Yes, 2 days ago, and he said on the interview, you have to watch it. He said the first time I saw Rex playing, I thought, how is that possible to sound like this? Can a trumpet sound? You didn't see the interview. You have to. He says that about you.
No, I missed it. Oh man, I would love to see that.
Yes.
Tofa is one of my favorite trumpet players and my favorite people on the planet. We're like brothers.
Yeah, he said the same, exactly.
Yeah,
the same about
I love him very much. He's one of my favorite persons on the planet. So that's very kind of him to say. He's very supportive. If ever I'm feeling bad about myself or as a player, I can say, Tofa, please say something nice, and he will make me feel better. He's that kind of a guy, wonderful guy.
Yes, we have someone here also saying, all right, your 100 days of practice are so inspiring. The Clark exercise never were the same after eating you in triple tonguing.
Oh.
Thank you for the gift, and continue if you can. Right, we have Leopold Artuso. So Rex, now about a daily routine. What do you think that is a healthy daily routine that can reach everyone? So let's talk about something that is not about styles now. What is the daily routine that is healthy for any musician that we have to do, and that's it?
I think that's a great question, and this is something I've been thinking about very much. And I think when it comes to a daily routine, we should think about the different skills that we have to work on to develop as a trumpet player. And so we can be very basic. We can think about developing, of course, our sound quality. We can think about ear training, which for me, I do a lot of this through mouthpiece practice, flexibility, articulation. Both of those categories can be broken down into smaller categories. So working on tight interval flexibility, wide interval. Articulation, of course, can be broken down into single tongue, double tongue, triple tongue, jazz articulation. You can think about all this. We have to have a healthy range, of course, low register, high register. And so everyone, and I think everyone should do some improvisation too. Even if you're only a classical player, this is no reason why you should not be able to improvise. So for me, every trumpet player, if you are a third trumpet in a major symphony, or you are a lead trumpet player in Hollywood, or a jazz player, anything you do, you can have a routine that works on all of these different skill sets, and it can be useful, I think, for everyone.
Everyone, all right, that's great. So you think that, for example, the base of any trumpet playing is on the classical base because it's much older actually than the jazz. So the jazz came after, so the base was already there. Of course.
Yeah, I think, well, some people may disagree with me, but it's my own bias because I never studied jazz formally. I have only from playing with musicians, and I would get one lesson with this person, one lesson with that
Yes.
person, very kind of loose, and so I think so. We're receiving a wine. It's my
No,
dog.
no worries. No worries.
We're receiving a wine delivery. We
What?
should order some Portuguese wine. Yeah,
Ah, do you see? You
some
should.
Italian wine is coming up.
You should.
But
All right.
I do believe that the basis for a healthy trumpet technique will come out of the classical tradition.
All
And
right.
I think most of the great trumpet players I know from any genre seem to be based in classical technique. Probably the most famously Winston, of course, who's one of the best jazz players ever, also one of the best trumpet players ever. But the basis of his technique, of course, is in classical music. But even people like, if you talked about Wayne Bergeron, how does he practice and think about the instrument? He is essentially just a fantastic all-around trumpet player. And one of his skills is, of course, he has this beautiful high register that he's famous for, but his musicianship, his way of thinking about the instrument, his discipline, to me, all of this lines up with the kind of things that we learn from classical study. So, yes, I think classical technique is a great foundation for any trumpet player who's playing in any genre, because then when you're learning to improvise or play a different language, whether it's jazz or pop music or something all different altogether, you can just add this in terms of learning additional languages while you still have this solid classical foundation for the instrument,
All right. That's okay. That's awesome. So we have Miles, the one that I told you that spoke with me about you. Miles 2017 is João Coca. All right. So
Hey,
Rex,
Miles.
you a great Miles. So he told me that you helped him with your talks and the kind of routine you set when you were with Laurent Philippe in Porto some years ago, that you helped them to reach really fast a high register efficient. So
Oh, fantastic.
what I don't know if you remember what you said on that time, of course, but what do you recommend for people to build a range but efficient range?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably I don't remember exactly what I said to him, except that usually I say the same thing to people, so it's probably similar. For the most part, I always try to think about building the high register using flexibility study. So we have to be careful with the trumpets not to rely on physical strength to play. We want to rely on flexibility. So the strength might be much closer to what, say, a dancer or a gymnast would do, not so much like what a weightlifter would do in terms of how we relate to the instrument. And for me, high register was very strange because when I was very young, when I was about 13, I didn't know what I was doing, but I could play a G above high C, but it was not a good sound and it was very muscular, So my teacher told me, hey, you have to relax the hands and not use so much pressure. And then my range was gone, But then using simple flexibility exercise, it built up again to become the same and then expand beyond that. So I think what's nice about flexibility exercises is it requires you to develop efficiency. If you're using too much muscle and working too hard, the exercises don't work. So I even engage, sometimes I practice in the mirror, I'm doing lip trills or I'm going to the high register, watching to see that my hand and my arms are staying relaxed
All
and
right.
not creating too much pressure this way. I'm relying on the strength of the air and trying to rely on the training from these exercises. My dog is here, you can see.
Show him.
There's Kenshi.
Hey! Beautiful.
See, you can rely on the training you get from the exercises to develop this kind of efficiency and allow you to open up the high register without using too much muscle.
All right. So Mateo is asking here if you use Collins flexibility.
I have in the past sometimes. I think that's a great book. They're great exercises. What I think is they're not so common in this book are very simple, rhythmically symmetrical exercises. I do think everyone should have some kind of exercise like this in their routine where they can put it on a metronome very easily. Because what I started doing, when I started doing exercises with flexibility, I would do this simple, starting on the G. That exercise you've probably heard, of course. But what's nice about this is you can figure out, okay, I can do it at this tempo, and it's a little stiff, but I will wait till it gets smooth, and then I can increase the tempo and go to faster rhythmic values, go to 16th notes, sextuplets, 32nd notes, etc. And so the advantage of that is that it's very easy to gauge what tempo you can execute, how fast, and then to try to gauge, to measure your progress as you go faster. Also to take it into different registers. So I think the Colon Lip Flexibilities book is great, but you can also use some more simple exercises that can be very important, that you can use the metronome with, and that are very easily changeable in terms of different registers and tempos.
Yes. Well, I like a lot the Scott Belt new the flexibility for modern brass.
Yes, me too. Scott's exercises are very, very smart. Scott is a brilliant guy. I mean, incredible trumpet player and jazz player. One of the funniest guys you can ever meet, of course. As you can see this in the books, But yeah, these books are amazing because he's clearly, the thinking for flexibility is just on a higher level, I think, than people have done in the past. It's really, really wonderful.
Yes. Okay, so let me read the question. Zé Pedro Pereira, Portuguese player, great player. I'm pleased to have heard you live and to have heard you live, and I would like you to explain about the energy that you put in the performance. It's all about mindset, or you prepare yourself so to the point that it comes naturally.
The energy of the performance. Well, there's I think there can be the physical energy we need to play, and this comes mostly from our practicing. We have our exercises that we do in our practice, and then we also have to remember that many times we will play with more energy and performance than we do in the practice room. Yeah. But the problem with this is that we can then become very tired very quickly in the performance. So in the practice room, sometimes we have to raise the energy level to say, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm ready for not only the performance, but sometimes the rehearsals if you're playing with an orchestra or in a recital, to make sure you're conditioned for that. Because if I'm practicing 4 hours a day, but everything is pianissimo, it's like, oh, this is very comfortable. But then if I go to perform and it's fortissimo, it's not going to work, So I try to make sure my practicing prepares me physically in terms of the energy level for what I will do in the rehearsals and the concert. The rest of the energy, the mental energy, is about, it's a couple different things. I think one thing that's very important for all of us as musicians, not only as trumpet players, is to make sure our imagination is very strongly engaged. I think sometimes people get on stage and they're ready to play and they become a little nervous and they're focused on, oh, this is a task I have to do. And instead, if they remember, all of us have heard things that we have thought, oh, this is so beautiful. I've heard these incredible performances. I still remember hearing Maurice Andre live when I was 16 years old, and also other musicians, violinists, singers, where I said, oh, this makes me feel something incredible. We have to remember that we can do the same thing as musicians, And so when we hear, we have to remember what we heard that made us feel this way. And the idea should be that we can bring this to the performance too. And this raises our energy. So if
Okay.
we imagine, the audience hearing this beautiful sound, this beautiful phrase, and this is what directs what we play, then first of all, we stay out of ourselves, because if we're thinking about ourselves too much, this is what makes us nervous. If we can stay focused on the music, we stay more calm, the mind is more quiet, and it's more focused on the task at hand, which is playing this beautiful phrase. And so that's why I try to rely so much on the imagination. I'm always trying to make sure I'm finding other beautiful things to listen to. And it
Okay.
doesn't have to be trumpet music or classical or jazz, just any kind of music that you hear. It's like, whatever moves you, this is very important for you to hang on to, because you can bring this with you as a performer too.
Awesome. So you said you were a singer when you were younger. Do you think that that helped you to play trumpet lyrically? So thinking more as a singer?
Well, I would say, I think there are two parts to the answer. One is I was probably too young to have really developed a concept as a singer,
Okay.
because by the time I was 12 or 13, my voice started to get, well, like this. So no one wanted to hear me sing anymore. Only I can sing like Cookie Monster now. That's my only ability. But so I didn't really have training on a high level. I didn't have vocal lessons who were teaching me high level musicianship. On the other hand, I think for us to think like singers, and if you do sing it, for people who are trumpet players who actually develop the voice and develop their singing to a high level, I think this can be a very big advantage. Because what I do a lot in my practicing is I will sing passages trying to emulate the concept of my singing, although I don't emulate the sound because I sound terrible when I
Yes.
sing. But I will sing things saying, okay, in some octave and at some tempo, I should be able to sing everything I play. Because if I can't, that means it's not really in the mental image of the sound. It's not really in the mind's ear, which means I can't play it as well as I possibly could on the trumpet. It has to have more clarity. So yes, I think for anyone who does sing, especially if you are getting guidance and you're getting lessons, I think it's a great idea. So sometimes, for example, college students can do secondary lessons, and for a lot of trumpet players, if you're a classical player, it makes sense to do jazz trumpets if you were able to. But if you can't do this, one of the best options, I think, is to take vocal lessons, because you will learn so many important things from vocalists. And I still learn so many things from great singers, whether it's Don Upshaw, like a great classical singer, Ella Fitzgerald on the jazz side, Freddie Mercury,
Yes.
on the rock and roll side. All of these singers have taught me so much. And I want to take what I've heard from them and try to put even one or two notes through the trumpet like this. And so, yes, I think the importance of singing as a concept for trumpet players is tremendous. And the more you can develop that with any kind of formal study, the better.
All right. So just reading here, we have João Pedro Vilão, which is a Portuguese player playing in Mexico. He's the principal trumpet of the Jalisco or Symphony Orchestra, right?
Fantastic.
And he said he done the master. His master was about your versatility in the performance.
Wow.
So his master, so probably should send it to you.
Yes.
Yes. So my
I would love
master
to see this.
played about Rex versatility in the performance. Awesome. All right.
Wow, that's amazing. Very cool.
Yes. What do you think about the so-called pedal tones, low tones? You spoke a bit about that on the range, but can you please?
Sure. I think it's sort of a personal choice. I like pedal tones very much myself. I'm not great at them. I mean, I think of my colleague in rhythm and brass, Whiff Rudd, who has incredible pedal tones. He plays like a trombone, or Arturo Sandoval, the same, with amazing pedal tones. Mine don't sound like that, but I never spent so much time trying to develop them. I use them more as a tool. For me, their importance, they teach me to breathe with great energy, because it's only in the pedal register that I'd ever push. I never push with the muscles. So if I stand up to show these muscles here, which do a lot of the work when we play, I when I'm playing in the middle or high register, I never deliberately push there. I let the muscles do their own thing. But in the pedal register, there's no resistance. The air just goes through the trumpet.
Yeah.
So I let myself push the air, and usually this sort of wakes up my breathing. This is good energizing for the breathing. And so indirectly, I think it has a nice effect on my playing in the normal register. Also, I met a trombone player once named Michael Bertoncello, who was playing in the Melbourne Symphony in Australia. He's a wonderful trombone player, one of the best brass players I've ever heard in my life. He's left music now, and now he's roasting coffee, but he's great at that too. I don't know. But he told me he thought that practicing pedal tones helped to reinforce the lower overtones in his sound and gave it more richness.
Okay.
So, I don't know if it's true, but I figure the pedal tones have never done any harm to my playing. So I do use them. Maybe they're helping my sound a bit. They certainly help my breathing. But some people really don't like pedal tones, and if you don't find them effective, I don't think you have to practice them. Just like free buzzing, for example, I can't free buzz at all. I can barely get a sound out, while other people find it very useful. So I think you have some of these techniques that are a little bit at the edge of our discipline, pedal tones, free buzzing, and for people who find them valuable, I think they're great to do. And if you don't like them so much, then maybe they're not so important to do. Eric Miyashiro told me, he said he was heard that I like pedal tones, and he was laughing. He says, "Man, I hate pedal tones." He says for him, pedal tones are a poison. Like, poison?
Exactly.
What do you mean? He said, when I play pedal tones, then I can't play anything normal that I do. So you never know.
Depends on
Depends on the person.
Yes,
Exactly.
and that's why we have so many exercises that will have the same final effect. So if one doesn't work for me, maybe another one does.
Exactly.
So I have pedal tones as well, but I found them dangerous in a time of my life where I started doing too much and my aperture started opening.
Yeah.
Because my conception of the exercise was not right. So I started opening, and then I was opening in all register, of course. No playing. So another question.
Interesting, yeah.
Since you mentioned using the abdominal muscles to push in the mid to upper register, what do you do to help to play with power in the upper register?
Well, I should point out the muscles are still flexing.
Exactly.
I just don't do it deliberately. So I think there's so many elements of our playing when we say, okay, I'm going to try to do this deliberately, like if I'm going to squeeze my lips or I'm going to push here. The problem is that many times it's too much. And so it's just like if you're speaking softly, these muscles will engage a little bit to push the air over your vocal cords. But if I shout, if I say, hey, then I feel the muscles flex because the body knows to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And it works the same way on a brass instrument. If you're going to play loudly, if your concept of the music is, okay, this is going to be fortissimo, it's going to be in a high C or above, these muscles are going to flex. And the danger is in thinking, well, we have to flex more. Because usually the problem with trumpet players is that we create excess tension up here and even sometimes in the gut. So if I'm speaking naturally and then I say, I'm going to tense up here, you can hear my voice gets even worse, right? And so there's the danger of this happening. So in answer to that question is, these muscles are definitely flexing. I'm just not deliberately telling them to flex. They do this naturally. And I think most of the muscles that engage when we play should take the same approach. You just you focus on the concept, you find exercises that train you, and you don't try to overplay or overflex any kind of muscles. You let them do their thing,
All right. Okay. Is someone asking here as well? Another question, Kevin Cabeza. So if you play C trumpet, of course. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
he's asking if I play C trumpet. Yeah, I do. I bought one of the latest Chicago, the third generation Chicago Cs from Yamaha, just in December. when I had the opportunity to play for Bob Malone and Wayne Tanabe, comparing the New York and the C, New York YM and the C back and forth, amazing trumpets both of them. But I ended up going with the Chicago, it's I don't play it all the time, so I don't play much in the orchestra because I'm doing more solo work on that side. But I used to play C a lot. I used to play quite a bit, but after a while, this was years ago, I found I didn't like my B flat playing when I was playing classical. It started to feel only like a jazz trumpet for me. So I made myself stop play C trumpet for a few years and play everything classical B flat. And now it feels good. So I feel like, okay, I can return to play C trumpet on some classical repertoire. Yeah.
All right. So let's go for the last question before the message, because we're going to have a message after. About your gear. So you play high register. Do you defend the small mouthpieces or that doesn't matter? For example, Arturo plays as he plays high in a 1 1/4 Bach Mount Vernon, so he's a really bucket. So which mouthpiece size do you use?
Well, my the Pickett Brass Omni 2 that I'm using is about it's probably fairly similar to what Arturo is playing. It's like about a 1.5 C.
All right.
And so I use this for everything I play. But I should also point out I can play a little bit in the high register, not like Arturo, of course. But I'm not really a lead player. I don't do something where I'm really going to rely on playing, double A's with real consistency or double C's. So I might go into this register, but it's only occasionally, maybe the high point of an improvised solo or something. And for me, it works okay. But I think if people decide they want to change mouthpieces for different kinds of gigs and it works for them, I think it's completely appropriate to do this,
All right. Okay. And trumpet, do you use Blackburn trumpets or not?
No, I've been a Yamaha artist for 25 years now. So it's all the trumpets I play are Yamaha, even though my mouthpieces are Blackburn. Pickett Brass.
You are probably one of the first big Yamaha artists that steals with them.
I don't know. It's been I think back when I was a kid and looking at Downbeat magazine, I remember seeing advertisements with Woody Shaw and Marvin Stam together, doing Yamaha. Of course, Marvin's still going strong, and but I'm not sure if he's still with Yamaha. So some people have left Yamaha, but Alan Vizzuti has been with them, I think, for maybe more like 35 years.
Probably, yes.
Bobby Shue for over 40 years. So so there are a lot of guys who've been with Yamaha for a while and have stuck with them, even though sometimes people have some changes and they might leave Yamaha, but they've done pretty well, I think, with developing loyalty with the artists. But
did you think anytime to make like a costume trumpet, or a signature instrument like Bobby Shue has?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of talk with Bob Malone about that sort of thing in the past. I think it's really difficult to do that. So they did that, excuse me, for Alan Vizzuti actually to celebrate his 25 years with Yamaha. But I think not long after that, they started feeling like this kind of marketing was not the direction they wanted to go. For example, I think when Wycliffe Gordon went with Yamaha, they thought about doing a Wycliffe Gordon trombone, but they didn't really do that. So what they're doing now is, I think so much of the models are focused on the orchestral side of things. Well, they'll have certain artists that consult on the models, but they don't necessarily name them after them, And so I've been fortunate too, for some of the recent generation, I've had the chance to try some of the instruments, but the folks giving the import, people like John Hagstrom and Dave Vilger and Chris Barton, of course, are mostly coming out of the orchestral world, except for, Bobby Shue's model and the LA model where Wayne was the main model. So there's been talk about in the past, but I don't see that kind of thing happening anytime soon, really. But I'm very happy with my current trumpet, so
Exactly.
it's fine
Exactly.
with me.
Doesn't matter. So, Rex, I will ask you now to leave a message to the young people, to the youngest generation, people that wants to become a player like you, but more. This last message is always more, at least in this channel, about the human part of the musician than the quality of the playing, because I think that's the most important at the moment in our generation is about respect, about focusing and not stepping on the other to get there, and if you know what I mean. So what is
Yes,
your message for the Portuguese people?
sure. I think what the issues you're raising there are very important, and the idea of respect for each other, for other musicians, for the art, all of these are so crucial. And you find there are people, it makes me, I want to mention a name who's very well known. We just lost Ryan Anthony, of course,
Exactly.
and I think Ryan is a kind of guy who is the best kind of example. If you look at how he lived his life, not only as a wonderful trumpet player, but in terms of how he treated people. That you've seen all these tributes online to him, and a few of the things that people say are very, very poignant and powerful. Someone pointed out, he let everybody be his friend. He was never too important for anyone, and so he kept in mind something that I think is very important, and would be maybe one of the most important parts of any message I would want to offer, is that music is essentially about people. We get into a room and we work with the trumpets, and we do our things by ourselves, but ultimately music is about connecting with people. And not only you don't just play on stage and you leave it and then you walk out. It's
Exactly.
about what it means to people. And I remember also Alan Bizzuti is another guy who really epitomizes, I think, the greatest behavior you could hope to see in a trumpet player. And I remember one time going to one of his concerts, and it was like ITG or something, all these important trumpet players there. And I was saying hi, and I saw a little boy walk up, a little boy about 8 years old holding the trumpet. And he walked in the circle, and Alan's attention went to him. All of a sudden, the most important person in the room was this little boy. And I saw that, I was like, oh, this is the
Exactly.
real thing. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing. Ultimately, it's always about people. It's about what we do as teachers. We reach out to colleagues. We lift each other up. And we remember, too, and even in terms of how we play and what we play, that we're trying to connect with people. We're trying to lift people up in everything we do as performers and as teachers and as colleagues. So I like your idea of any kind of a message being focused on respect. I agree with you. This is the most important thing: respect and kindness.
Yes, well, I think that's the biggest difference between you and most of the guys we are interviewing here, and the good guys. So we have to separate the guys that play a lot and the greatest ever like you, because what separates them sometimes is not the quality of the playing, it's the quality of the human being that makes them in the next level. And some guys play a lot, but they don't get there. So thank you so much for being a reference for me and for all of us. Is a lot of people here, so many questions, I couldn't read them all. I will have in about 5 minutes mark those here as well.
Amazing
So another
player.
great,
Mark is
another great
fantastic.
player. Rex,
Yeah,
I will contact you after, and this interview will be on YouTube and Facebook later today, so people can rewatch it. And I will
that's great.
contact you about a lesson with you and to speak a bit. All right?
Sounds great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Luis.
you
This
so
was
much.
wonderful, man. What a pleasure.
God bless you, brother.
Muito
God bless you. Bye bye.
obrigado.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.